Have you ever loved someone so deeply that their presence became your oxygen, and their absence felt like suffocation? That kind of love feels powerful, intoxicating, even divine, yet it can quietly destroy you from within, because when love turns into dependence, when affection becomes obsession, and when care transforms into control, it's no longer love. It's attachment disguised as love. And that's the most painful illusion the human heart can fall into. We often confuse attachment with love because both make us feel connected. But attachment chains us to fear, the fear of loss, the fear of change, the fear of being alone. True love, on the other hand, is freedom. It doesn't demand, it doesn't cling, it doesn't say, "Stay with me so I can feel whole." It says, "I love you because I already am whole." But most of us don't start from wholeness. We start from emptiness, from the wounds of our past, the insecurities we hide, and the silent craving to be seen, chosen, and needed. So, when someone gives us attention, we mistake that spark for healing. We think love will fill the emptiness we've been running from. But attachment doesn't fill emptiness. It feeds it. It keeps you in a cycle of highs and lows, where you feel alive when you're together and hollow when you're apart. You start to measure your worth by how much someone loves you, and your peace depends on what they do or don't do. That's not love. That's emotional addiction, and it keeps you chasing validation instead of living your truth. Real love begins where attachment ends. It begins when you no longer need someone to complete you, but you choose to share yourself with them, freely, without fear, without expectation. It's the kind of love that doesn't say, "You belong to me." It says, "You belong to yourself," and I honor that. That's not weakness. That's the purest form of strength, because it takes courage to love without possession, to care without control, to give without asking for anything in return. And this is the kind of love that changes lives. Because when you learn to love without attachment, you stop clinging to what's temporary. You stop chasing what hurts you. You begin to see love not as something to get, but as something to be. You stop saying, "I need you," and start saying, "I choose you." That shift, from need to choice, is the birth of emotional freedom. If you've ever felt trapped in a love that hurts, this message is for you. Because deep down, you already know you are not born to depend. You were born to connect. You were not created to lose yourself in someone else. You were created to find yourself through love. The pain you feel when you lose someone is not punishment. It's life trying to teach you that you've given your power away. And the moment you take that power back, the moment you realize that love should expand you, not shrink you, that's when you become free. Stay with me till the end of this video, because what you'll discover isn't just how to love better, it's how to live lighter, love deeper, and finally find peace inside your own heart. The reason we struggle to love without attachment is because we've been conditioned to believe that love and possession are the same thing. From childhood, we were taught that to be loved means to be chosen, to be kept, to be someone's favorite. But no one told us that real love isn't about being kept. It's about being seen. It's about being accepted as we are, not owned or controlled. Somewhere along the way, we started confusing belonging with captivity. And that's why so many people lose themselves when they fall in love. When you attach, you stop seeing the person for who they are and start seeing them as the source of your happiness. Your peace becomes tied to their attention, your self-worth to their approval. You stop being you and start being who you think they want. But the truth is, no love can survive when it's built on fear. Fear of losing someone creates tension. It makes you chase, cling, overthink, and doubt. You start reading between the lines, searching for signs, trying to predict every move, all because you've made someone else the keeper of your peace. That's not love. That's self-abandonment disguised as devotion. Loving without attachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. It means you recognize that your emotions are your responsibility, not anyone else's. It's the courage to say, "I can love you deeply, but I don't need you to complete me." That's not coldness, it's maturity. It's the kind of maturity that comes when you understand that love should never cost you your sense of self. When you release attachment, you don't lose connection. You strengthen it, because now you're no longer loving from fear, but from freedom. You no longer cling to someone because you're afraid to be alone. You choose them because you want to share your life, not escape it. That's what makes your love pure. It's no longer about control. It's about presence. It's about showing up fully, giving your best, and letting go of what you cannot force. Attachment is rooted in scarcity. It whispers, if they leave, I'll never find love again. But freedom whispers, if they leave, I'll still be love itself. You stop chasing because you realize that you are not losing love. You are returning to it within yourself. When you reach that awareness, something inside you shifts. You stop begging for attention and start radiating peace. You stop proving your worth and start embodying it. You stop waiting for love to save you and start becoming the love that saves others. That's the quiet power of detachment. It's not a lack of feeling. It's the highest form of feeling. Because only when you stop clinging do you start seeing clearly. You begin to love not for what someone gives you, but for what you see in them, their essence, their energy, their truth. And whether they stay or go, you remain whole. Because your love no longer depends on circumstance, it flows from consciousness. The moment you learn this, you start experiencing relationships differently. You stop seeing them as cages and start seeing them as mirrors. Every connection becomes an opportunity to grow, not to grasp. Every heartbreak becomes a teacher. Every goodbye becomes grace. And in that freedom, you discover the rarest kind of love, one that doesn't bind you but awakens you. Most people never experience love in its purest form because they are too busy trying to protect it. They guard it, cling to it, and build walls around it, believing that safety comes from control. But love and control cannot exist together. Where there is control, love suffocates. Real love can only breathe in openness, in trust, in surrender. The moment you try to hold love too tightly, it begins to slip away. Because love isn't meant to be caged. It's meant to be experienced moment by moment without fear of loss. The truth is, attachment comes from insecurity, the quiet belief that without this person you'll be empty, unseen, forgotten. It's the hidden voice inside you that says, I'm not enough on my own. And so, you attach, not because your love is weak, but because your self-love is. You give your heart away hoping someone will return it with proof that you matter. But no one can give you the validation that you refuse to give yourself. The more you seek it outside, the further you drift from the peace within. That's why love without self-awareness turns into dependence, and dependence always leads to pain. The way out isn't to stop loving, it's to start loving consciously. To see that every attachment is a reflection of what still needs healing inside you. When you feel desperate for someone's approval, what you're really craving is your own acceptance. When you're afraid they'll leave, what you truly fear is facing yourself. Love without attachment is not the absence of emotion, it's the presence of understanding. It's the awareness that says, I can love you deeply and still not lose myself in you. When you reach this level of awareness, love transforms. You stop trying to own people and start appreciating them. You stop demanding constant reassurance and start creating inner peace. You stop begging for love and start becoming a magnet for it, because people are drawn to those who are not desperate to be loved, but fearless enough to love. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means emotional strength. It means you can give your heart and still stand tall if it's not returned. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. It takes deep emotional maturity to reach this space, to love while letting go, to care without control, to give without needing. But once you do, you experience a kind of peace that no attachment can ever offer. You realize that love was never about possession. It was about reflection. Every person you meet is showing you how much of yourself you've discovered or forgotten. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every ending is not punishment. It's an invitation to come home to yourself. When you begin to see love through this lens, your energy changes. You stop holding on to what hurts just because it feels familiar. You stop chasing people who are meant to walk away. You start standing still, breathing deeply, and letting life move as it's meant to, because you finally understand that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself to keep it. Love without attachment isn't emptiness. It's fullness. It's the fullness that comes from knowing that no matter who stays or leaves, your heart remains whole, open, and free. To love without attachment, you must first be willing to face yourself. Because the kind of love that frees you cannot grow in a heart that is full of fear. Most people chase love without ever confronting the emptiness they carry within. They search for someone to make them feel alive, valuable, or complete. But that search is endless, because no one can fill a void that was never meant to be filled by another human being. That emptiness isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's an invitation to go deeper, to meet yourself beneath the noise, to remember that you were whole before you were ever loved. The reason we become attached is that we believe love is scarce. We think there's not enough of it to go around, so when we find it, we cling to it as if it's our last chance at happiness. But love is not a limited resource. It's an infinite state of being. You don't run out of love, you only run out of awareness. The moment you remember that love flows through you, not to you, everything changes. You stop begging for it, because you realize you've been the source all along. You stop chasing people to feel worthy, because you finally see that your worth isn't determined by who chooses you. It's revealed by how deeply you choose yourself. Loving without attachment is not about withdrawing from others. It's about reconnecting with your own center. It's about standing firmly in your truth and saying, I can love you fully, but I won't lose myself in the process. That level of strength comes from deep self-respect. It's what allows you to give without collapsing, to care without controlling, to be present without clinging. It's a shift from dependency to authenticity, from fear to faith. When you love from that place, your relationships begin to evolve. You no longer demand that others complete you. You invite them to grow with you. You stop needing constant validation and start creating space for trust. You stop fearing loss, because you know that nothing real can ever be lost. What's meant for you will align effortlessly when you are in alignment with yourself. This understanding turns love from a battlefield into a sanctuary. It becomes peaceful, steady, nourishing, not something you fight for, but something you flow with. Every time you release attachment, you take your power back. You stop letting your emotions be controlled by external circumstances. You stop letting other people's presence or absence define your peace. You begin to live in a state of quiet confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because you finally understand that your happiness isn't fragile. It doesn't depend on someone staying. It depends on you staying true to yourself. When you embody that truth, you attract love that mirrors your peace. You draw in people who see your strength, not your need. You create connections that expand you instead of drain you. You learn that love was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a path to freedom. And the moment you stop chasing love and start being love, you'll realize that you never had to hold on so tightly. What's real will always stay, not because you force it, but because it feels safe in the presence of your peace. The deeper you understand love, the more you realize that detachment is not the end of emotion. It's the beginning of clarity. It strips away the illusions, the fears, the expectations that cloud your heart. It allows you to see love for what it truly is, a conscious choice, not a desperate need. When you detach, you don't stop feeling, you start feeling purely. You stop reacting from fear and start responding from awareness. You begin to love not because you're lonely, but because it's your natural state to give, to connect, to expand. That's the kind of love that elevates the soul rather than entangles it. Attachment thrives on illusion. It convinces you that if someone leaves, your world will fall apart. It tells you that without their presence you are incomplete, but the truth is, no one has the power to complete you, because you were never incomplete to begin with. The idea that another person can fill what's missing is a beautiful dream, but it's a dangerous one, because it keeps you dependent, it keeps you waiting, it keeps you small. You don't heal by clinging, you heal by remembering that everything you seek already exists within you. When you begin to see love through this awakened lens, something shifts at the core of your being. You stop chasing permanence in a world built on change. You stop trying to freeze moments or possess people. You understand that everything beautiful in life is meant to move, to grow, to evolve, to pass. Love, too, must be allowed to breathe. You cannot trap it, and you cannot own it. The more you let it flow, the more it returns to you in unexpected ways. This is why learning to love without attachment is an act of courage. It requires you to surrender control, to trust the flow of life even when you don't know what comes next. It asks you to stand tall in your vulnerability, to give your heart without guarantees, to care without fearing the outcome. It's not weakness to love and still let go. It's the highest form of strength, because true love is not measured by how tightly you hold on, but by how freely you give without losing yourself. The beauty of detached love is that it purifies you. It teaches you to choose peace over possession, growth over comfort, presence over promises. It helps you see that love isn't meant to rescue you. It's meant to remind you that you were never lost. You learn to appreciate the people who walk beside you without needing to control where they go. You learn to say goodbye with gratitude instead of resentment. You learn that endings don't destroy love, they reveal its depth. And when you love this way, openly, consciously, fearlessly, you become magnetic. Because nothing is more attractive than someone who is free. Someone who can love without trying to own. Someone who can care without trying to fix. Someone who can walk away with peace, not bitterness. That energy transforms everything it touches. It draws people who are also free, also whole, also ready to love from a place of truth. That is the love that lasts. Not because it resists change, but because it flows with it. When you begin to love without attachment, you start to feel something rare, a calmness that no chaos can touch. You realize that love was never meant to make you anxious, never meant to make you chase, never meant to make you lose sleep wondering if you are enough. That heaviness you once carried wasn't love. It was fear wearing love's mask. And when you remove that mask, you see that real love is peace. It doesn't shake your core, it strengthens it. It doesn't consume your mind, it clears it. It doesn't drain you, it fills you. Because love that is free of attachment doesn't take from you. It grows through you. This kind of love transforms everything it touches because it's not born from need. It's born from abundance. It comes from a heart that knows its own worth, from a soul that doesn't beg to be seen but radiates light so bright it cannot be ignored. You start to realize that the love you used to chase was a reflection of the love you had yet to find within yourself. The moment you start giving yourself the patience, care, and acceptance you once demanded from others, the emptiness disappears. You no longer crave to be chosen, because you've already chosen yourself. When you live from that space, your energy changes. You stop seeking love to fill your silence and start enjoying your own presence. You stop clinging to people who only offer half of themselves, because you've learned to offer yourself fully. You no longer mistake intensity for intimacy or attention for affection. You begin to see clearly who genuinely connects with your soul and who only feeds your ego, and this clarity becomes your freedom. You stop settling for what only looks like love and start aligning with what truly feels like peace. But make no mistake, this level of love demands courage. It asks you to face the parts of you that have been neglected, the wounds you've tried to hide behind your attachments. It's uncomfortable to realize that the love you've been seeking outwardly has always been your own responsibility. Yet this realization is the most powerful healing you'll ever experience. Because when you finally understand that you are the source of your peace, no one can take it away from you. People may come and go, but your center remains unshaken. Your heart becomes a sanctuary, not a battlefield. From that stillness, your love becomes unconditional. You stop loving based on how someone treats you or how much they give in return. You love because that's who you are. You love because it's your natural expression, your highest frequency. You become the kind of person who gives without losing, who trusts without fearing, who lets go without resentment. You begin to embody the truth that love is not possession. It's presence. It's not attachment. It's alignment. It's not what you hold. It's what you allow to flow. And when you reach that place, you stop chasing love altogether, not because you've given up, but because you've grown beyond the illusion that you ever had to. Love begins to find you naturally, through people who match your peace, through connections that feel effortless, through energy that doesn't pull but flows. That's the miracle of loving without attachment. It doesn't make you love less, it makes you love better. The more you grow into love without attachment, the more you begin to see how much of your suffering was never caused by love itself, but by your resistance to letting love flow naturally. You suffered because you wanted to hold on to moments that were meant to pass. You suffered because you wanted people to stay who were meant to teach you and move on. You suffered because you confused comfort with connection and permanence with peace. But real love doesn't need permanence to be powerful. Its beauty lies in its truth, not its duration. When you understand that, you stop grieving what ends and start celebrating what was real while it lasted. Love is not meant to be trapped in expectations. It is meant to awaken you. Every connection, every heartbreak, every longing has been guiding you closer to yourself. The people who left were never punishment. They were mirrors. They showed you the parts of yourself that still needed healing, the wounds that were still asking for your attention. When you loved and lost, it wasn't love that failed, it was your attachment to what you thought love should look like. That realization alone can set you free, because it teaches you to value love for the experience, not the outcome. To love without attachment means to allow every emotion to move through you without clinging to it. It means you can feel joy without fearing loss, and you can feel pain without building walls. You stop trying to control how long something lasts and start focusing on how deeply you experience it. You begin to understand that love isn't measured by how tightly you hold on, but by how open you remain. The deeper your presence, the less you need to possess. That's when love becomes alive, not static, not fragile, but infinite. This awareness changes the way you show up in every relationship. You stop entering love with conditions. You stop keeping score. You stop needing constant proof that you matter. Instead, you show up fully with honesty, compassion, and peace. You start listening more than defending, giving more than demanding, and understanding more than judging. You no longer love to get something in return. You love because it's who you are. And that kind of love cannot be taken away from you because it comes from a place no one else can touch. It takes immense strength to love this way, to release control, to trust the flow, to accept that what is meant for you will never require force. But that strength is what transforms you. It turns your heart from a place of fear into a source of light. You start to see that the purpose of love is not to possess another soul, but to awaken your own. When you love without attachment, you are no longer searching for completion. You are celebrating connection. You stop asking, "How long will this last?" and start asking, "How deeply can I give while it's here?" That question changes everything. It brings peace to the mind and freedom to the heart. You no longer need guarantees to feel safe. You no longer need control to feel secure. You begin to realize that love, when lived consciously, is never lost. It simply transforms into wisdom, into gratitude, into deeper compassion. Every person you've ever loved becomes part of your growth. Every ending becomes a beginning. And through it all, you remain grounded, open, and alive. A living reminder that the purest love is the one that sets you free. When you free yourself from attachment, love becomes something entirely different. It becomes pure awareness. You stop trying to own love, and instead, you start to be love. You start to see it not as something exchanged between two people, but as a presence that flows through you, touches others, and returns multiplied. The fear of losing fades because you no longer seek security in another person. You find it in the stillness of your own being. You begin to love from fullness, not from need. That is the moment when love evolves from emotion to essence. This kind of love doesn't depend on what others do. It isn't shaken by distance, time, or circumstance. It doesn't collapse when someone changes, because it's not built on control. It's built on understanding. It's the recognition that everyone is walking their own path, carrying their own lessons, trying to find their way home just like you. So instead of clinging, you begin to respect the flow of life. You start to bless what comes and bless what leaves. You stop resisting the rhythm of change, and in that surrender, you find peace deeper than you ever imagined. Many fear detachment because they mistake it for coldness. But detachment isn't a lack of feeling. It's the liberation of feeling. It's the difference between drowning in emotion and floating within it. You still feel everything, perhaps even more deeply, but you're no longer enslaved by what you feel. You can love without losing your center. You can give without falling apart. You can experience connection without confusion. Detachment allows you to hold space for love while remaining grounded in your truth. It's emotional mastery disguised as calm, and when you master this, your relationships become healthier, lighter, and more authentic. You no longer enter them to fix your loneliness, you enter them to share your wholeness. You don't use love as a distraction from your pain, you use it as a mirror to understand yourself better. You don't try to keep people out of fear, you let them stay because they want to, not because you need them to. This shift removes the heaviness from love and replaces it with harmony. You begin to attract people who are also free, people who love without control, who stay without pressure, who honor your independence while celebrating connection. Loving without attachment also teaches you to honor impermanence. Everything in life moves in cycles: growth, stillness, change, renewal. The same applies to relationships. Some will stay a lifetime, others just a season, but each one serves its sacred purpose. When you accept that truth, you no longer resist endings. You meet them with grace. You say thank you, not why. You walk away in peace, not in pain. Because you know that what leaves always makes space for what's meant to arrive. That is the beauty of love in its highest form. It doesn't bind, it awakens. It doesn't demand, it allows. It doesn't trap, it transforms. When you love without attachment, you stop trying to possess beauty. You become part of it. You stop holding your heart hostage to conditions, and you start living with an open hand, an open mind, and an open soul. Love ceases to be a pursuit and becomes your natural state of existence. Boundless, effortless, eternal. To love without attachment is to finally understand that love is not a transaction but a transformation. It's not something you chase or earn. It's something you awaken within yourself. When you let go of attachment, what remains is the essence of love itself, pure, present, and unconditional. You stop asking love to fill your emptiness and start allowing it to overflow from your wholeness. This is the point where love transcends desire and becomes consciousness, where you no longer love to possess but to elevate, to connect, to awaken. Attachment comes from fear: fear of loss, fear of rejection, fear of being forgotten. But love rooted in fear is never truly love. It's survival disguised as devotion. You cannot love freely while holding on to fear. They cannot exist in the same space. The moment you surrender fear, you make space for truth. The truth that love was never meant to make you smaller. It was meant to remind you of your infinite capacity to give, to grow, to rise. Every time you cling, you close your hand. Every time you let go, you open your heart. When your love becomes free of attachment, you begin to love more deeply, not less. Because now, you're not loving for validation or comfort. You're loving from awareness. You're no longer drawn to people who trigger your insecurities, but to those who inspire your evolution. You begin to recognize that real love doesn't come to fill your voids. It comes to reflect your growth. You stop asking, "What can I get from this?" and start asking, "What can I give while staying true to myself?" That question alone changes the energy of every connection you have. Freedom in love doesn't mean detachment from people. It means detachment from outcomes. It's understanding that you can love deeply without demanding that love take a certain shape. It's trusting that if something is meant for you, it will align naturally, without force, without resistance, without begging. This trust is not weakness, it's the deepest form of faith. Because when you trust life, you stop clinging to temporary things out of fear and start opening yourself to infinite possibilities. In this space, you begin to love from stillness. You can look at someone and love them for exactly who they are, without the need to change or keep them. You can appreciate the connection without needing to define it. You can walk with them for a while, and when your paths diverge, you can release them with grace instead of grief. This isn't apathy, it's wisdom. It's the wisdom that understands that nothing real can be lost, and nothing forced can last. The greatest gift of loving without attachment is the peace it brings. Peace that no rejection can take. Peace that no distance can destroy. Peace that no ending can disturb. Because this love doesn't live in the external. It lives in you. It flows through you like breath, infinite and effortless. It connects you to everyone and everything, not through need, but through essence. When you reach this understanding, you don't just love differently. You live differently. You move through life open, compassionate and free, knowing that the more you let love flow, the more it becomes who you are,